Hello and welcome back to the channel. You see me starting this afternoon with just checking over the longer pieces of stock that I've still got to put the other face and side on. I'm just checking what the initial width is, because my idea was to use 25mm stock, but after having put the initial face and side on, then this one, for example, the initial width is only, it varies between 25 and 23, so obviously I can't have 25mm. So I'm just sorting through this lot just to see what I can get away with to keep at 25mm, and then I'll make a decision as to what I'm going to do from then. Right, I've got two piles, 1 and 2, and these are at the moment thicker than 25. Most of them are nearer to 30mm. That's good because that means I can keep those at 25mm thick. These I will have to take down to about 20 because of the thickness of some of them. And of course some of them, like this one, this is one of those that is destined for the panelling in the doors, and for this piece I was going to cut it down the middle anyway, because I need to then book leaf them, and so I can join two pieces together. So now I know which pieces are going to be just taken straight down on the thicknesser, which I need to work out what piece is going where, and so that's that job. The next thing, because I'm going to be working on the bandsaw, the last time I used this was when I was using the scroll facility, so it's got a very thin blade. I've got to pop that blade back on, so let's do the bandsaw first. Okay, so I've changed the blade, that's tracking nicely, and it's going to give me a lot of rigidity now in cutting. Obviously the kerf on this is going to be a lot smaller than on the table saw, which means I'm going to lose less material. But I've gone through the stock again and I've decided I'm just going to standardise everything at a finish size thickness of 20mm, not 25. It just makes calculations and stock much easier to cope with. My brain won't work to that level of detail at the moment. But also, one thing I've realised, where's my cutting list? The wider boards that I've got for the panels, even those will need to be cut down width-wise, not thickness, width-wise, because if I'm going to cut them thickness-wise, I'm limited to 150mm. Now one of the pieces is about 200mm wide, so that's going to be far too wide to go through this. So I've set the saw up so I can get lengths through, and what I'm going to do now, this is the widest board that I have. I'm just going to take this one down lengthwise for the width of 150, and then I can take everything down here to 15 millimeters, or roughly 15 millimeters. In this case it's going to be halfway. So that's the next job. So my first task, that's the finished edge, so obviously I'm going to be working from that, and that means that's going to be that way across the table with that edge against the fence, but that one will be face downwards, so that will be a 90-degree cut. So 150 millimeters is going to be there. And that's roughly where I want it. Let's tighten that off. Release that, and then I can fine adjust it. And lock it off. So what I'm thinking is, if I give myself a couple of millimeters to the waist side of the 150, then I can put that on the planer to take it down to 150, so then I will have two finished sides. Then I can cut this face off here. Okay, so that's that one. Let me these shouldn't pose a risk because these are all roughly 100. Well, that's just, well, that is actually 6 inches, which is slightly more, so all I need to do is put that edge through the planer, and this piece, this one's 125 anyway, so that's going to be okay. I don't need to do anything with that one. Right, my ears, dust extraction is set. And I've just realised the dust extraction pipe is going to be in the way, so that needs a little addition to it. So let me think, which way am I going to do this? Slightly smaller pipe. Nearly knocked you over, didn't I? And yeah, it will pass through there now. Well, that cut very nicely, and I am very pleased with this bandsaw. So, right, the next thing, I've got the wide panel pieces to width nicely to about 150mm, which is the limit of the cut. Now I'm going to take them down to about 17mm. Because that way I can then finish them to 15, which will be just right for the panels. So that's there. I'm going to make a test cut on a scrap piece of wood. So, scrap piece of wood. This is one of the really damaged pieces that I trimmed off the other week. So that's the finished side. That's the finished side, so that wants to go that way. And what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to use the featherboard just to make sure everything stays flat. And stays against the blade and the fence. Not quite. Needs a little more pressure. There we go. And a push stick. I'm not making this mistake again. Okay. next thing I want to check is how equal that is. Well, that is about 16.5, 15.5. So where's my other gauge? There. Let me just double check. 16.85, 16.1. Seventeen point 3, 16, 16.3. So that's workable. I can take that down on the thicknesser now to 15mm, and that's cutting quite well. Okay, next thing. Let's put this longer piece through. Oops. And move these little bits out of the way. Okay, that's the sawn edge, that's the faced edge, that's the faced side, and again just make sure that is really pushing hard. Oh boy, that was tough work. I hadn't realised just how hard oak is when you're cutting this width. But that's the result. Some lovely figuring in there that's going to cut down nice, that finish nicely. Put that through the thicknesser and the gauge. Now this top edge is 18, 19. I just want to make sure, yeah, everything is slightly tilting. It's a narrower cut at the bottom than it is at the top. That's 17.5. 17. It's close. Yeah, that's okay. I can live with that. That will come out nicely on the thicknesser. So, but for a sawn piece, that's nice. Okay, so, and that's a nice piece of, at the moment, 6 a bit. Yeah, just under 7mm thick, that piece. So that's definitely something I can use in making perhaps banding. So pop that to one side. I've just got these other 2 pieces to do. Right, between the end of this clip and the end of the last clip, that has taken 25 minutes. I need a new blade, so I'm not going to be cutting any more today, but you might think, why have I bothered? Why not just stick that through the thicknesser? Basically, I don't want to just throw all this material away as shavings. I can do something with that later. But that's as far as I'm going today, and just clear up now, and I'll tackle the 3rd piece next week. Thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you next time.